Lahrman. Yeah, say thank you for being a guest on my talk show. Don't mind me. I'm just having a brain fart. It's one of those days. And I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to participate with you. And the name kind of throws people off all the time, so don't worry about it.
Now, for people who want to know what uncensored is, uncensored's my way of showing people that even with a learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life. At the same time, I'm able to turn myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair. But you should never label yourself or have people label you, and you should prove to them you can still mount to something no matter what. Now, with that being said, it's a half-hour, 45-minute conversation. You can say anything you want, curse if you want to, call me an asshole for messing up your last name, and it's completely whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, that's not who I am because I would never do that. I sometimes mess up my last name too. It was not my birth name. It was a name that a married name. But yes, so let's get started.
So what can you tell me about yourself?
Well, I'm right now sitting very casually dressed in my home office, and I own a model and talent agency. I've been in that industry for 16 years, and it's here in Nashville, Tennessee, the home of country music. And I am a mom of 2 adult children and take great pride in that, staying connected with them. And I have a very deep spiritual connection of meditation and such of that to keep me, that fills my well. I like to cook, a lot of different things. I don't know, so we can start from that.
Well, what can you tell us about the job you do with the talent agency?
Yeah, well, here I'm a booking agent, so I have talent that are both models and actors or aspiring people that want to get into the industry, and I assist in developing them. And I have clients that I work with that hire, may it be for print ads, runway shows, commercials, movies, anything along that line.
Well, if you're interested, I would love to work with you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where you're located, but being that this industry, most of the clients want to, the talent have to go audition.
Right.
Auditions are part of the hard part, actually. And you have to go in person. So if you're in anywhere in the Tennessee area, then that would work well. But if not, I work with talent over in Atlanta, and I do have some in LA, but I kind of keep that small because most of them, are from here.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. Never close the door.
You ever been to New York, or do you work with people in the New York area?
No, at one time I did, but not really. I have New York talent that will, what they call scout, and they will come and they will visit some of the smaller agencies throughout the country and look at the models. Because I will say, we, kind of homegrown girls, they kind of get up to be like the 5'11" height, very lean, and that's what they choose. So, outside of that, but no, I don't interact with New York itself.
Well, if you're ever in New York, we should hang out sometime.
All right, you're on.
Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, when you were in college, were you a study nerd, party animal?
No, and actually, I didn't have college. I went straight from the high school to working. I did some, the college I did was, I went into gemology, and I wanted to be a gemologist. So I was in Indiana at the time, and that was my phone ringing. That was in LA. So they had the online courses. That was when that just first started. So I did jewelry for a while, and that didn't really pan out, and I became a buyer, and then into this industry. But a party animal, I would think, like anyone, we kind of unfold and discover, but I don't know. Maybe I had a few moments, but I wasn't a real heavy, drinker or anything like that.
What about sports? Were you athletic? Did you do any sports?
I did volleyball and a little bit of track, but no, I was more the cheerleader, and I don't think I had a lot of coordination, to be honest. School was not my favorite thing. I mean, I did it because that's what you had to do, but I found school pretty challenging, as in the people, the judgments, the peer pressure. That just never really sat well with me, and it's not something I would say, wow, I really enjoyed it. And even the learning, I was one that I'd rather go out and experience life and create myself than sit there and be told how it is. So someone can tell you how it is, but until you have your own personal experience, that's two different things, because we're looking from two different perspectives, and it's like two different cameras, their views on this, and when I'm experiencing it, it's a whole different thing. So.
No, I agree with you. It's easier for people to talk, but you have to experience this because it's your life, and I learn more with hands-on than someone just telling me what to do.
Does it help you? I mean, when you're experiencing it yourself, and like you said, I'm hands-on too. I mean, and it just, I think there's a depth of that. There's it's just, I don't know. It comes alive for me.
I don't know. It's easier for most people.
Yeah. Although I have, my sisters, one of them who actually was a scholar. She's like the big study nerd, and I didn't understand it. Like, she didn't have to study for a test, or she'd just open up her book, I have a test, and open it up, and then go in and ace it. And that was not me. Like, even to get, a B or C's were probably my average, but to get a B, it was a struggle.
Yeah, I was a C student.
Yeah. I mean, we're being real here, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm just telling you as it is. That's who I was. It was just like, I'd rather have gone out and lived life than sit in the classroom.
Now, you mentioned you were a cheerleader. Did you ever want to go professionally, or did you ever was it just high school and college?
No, I mean, I didn't want to go professional because I found myself I'm more the behind-the-scenes person. I like to coordinate, and I like to put it together. I don't like to be in front of the camera, and that's why I think I make a good agent, because I know what it looks like from the other end to assist somebody to be on it. So, no, that's not ever been my thing, and I wasn't that tall girl. I was pretty average. I mean, just an average girl, 5'5", same average size as anyone else. I didn't have any, glamour, bits about me, big hair, it's just who I was. But I think in my personality, I just really had a drive. But yeah, no, so I went on from school just to learning. I really wanted to negotiate. I liked negotiating, and I liked jewelry, so that's when I stopped into that. And then I went into being a buyer for, some companies who were buying products. It was all about moving and shaking. But I kind of kick it back a little bit. When I was a little girl, Barbies were my ultimate thing. Like, I could sit for hours and play with Barbies and go to the store, and they'd have aisles of, clothes. And that's where I got into the fashion and the designing and, just really what looks good and what doesn't. And it just unfolded that the agency was a good fit for me. And that's Reflection Agency.
Now, I saw on your
Shameless plug.
I saw on your LinkedIn, and that's your own company, right?
It is, yeah. I worked for another agency when I first kind of moved out of buying, and that was around 9/11, and the whole industry's, shifted and changed, and so I went in to this, and it was due to an interest in my son. Ford in New York had interest in my son, and for me, to get involved, I want to know the business. So I got involved in it, and it just fit. It was like, duck to water. I knew it very easily. I was very talented at it. kind of one of my students, part of it that I worked with and developed, because we are in, small town Tennessee, was Miley Cyrus. So when she wanted to get into it, we would do acting classes. So I represented her for like 5.5 years, and booked her on Big Fish. So it's just one of those, you work with people and you develop them and wherever they choose to go. But that's what I like to do. I like to create.
Yeah, same here. Now the next question I was going to ask you, so when you do your intakes, or when you sit and you talk to your talent, is it like one-on-one, or do you do it in a group?
When I first meet with them, it's one-on-one. I spend, good hour and a half to see if they're a fit with the agency, if, the agency's a fit for them, because it's their art and their talent that you just want to make sure that you honor, along with honoring the business. So, and I get to know their hearts of what it is they want to do, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, so that I can see if those are the clients that I have. So it's one-on-one. And then really from there, I just contact them when I have auditions, and then they go out and interact. And, we talk on the phone, emails, whatever that may be. But they're mainly, because I send them out, I get the information, I kind of refine it, and I tell them what they need to do and go, and I negotiate stuff. Then they go on their way. Does that help give a better picture of it?
No, it does. Yeah, I came up with, I was just thinking, because you work with a lot of talents, if you're interested, maybe you could recommend my show, or you can plug my show.
See, you never know what's going to come up, So, yeah, we'll put it on my LinkedIn or whatever and just see. Depends on, vanity here, depends on how good I look.
Now, the next question I was going to ask you is, did you ever get the chance to do one of those human pyramids, or you're not a human pyramid girl?
No. I don't know. Like, I say no, but no, that wasn't, I don't recall. No, not anything like that.
Well, you did say you were a cheerleader, so I'm just surprised you didn't do those.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm saying like there was just a few of us, a few of the girls, but not like a big, I say the human pyramid, I think of the big ones, but if it's just the few of us, I mean, that was back then, and cheerleading evolved. Before it was just it was a thing for the girls. Of course, when I went to school, it was like, a while though that was just an extracurricular. It wasn't really a front runner. And then over the years, it changed. And that was just like maybe a couple of years that I did it. It wasn't long-lived for me. Yeah. Again, I'm getting back to the peer pressure and the girls, kind of some not liking other girls. It just, I didn't understand that. It was just very hard for me.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I know I'm a loser.
You're not a loser. Look at you. You got your own talk show up. Oh my gosh. You're definitely not a loser.
Now, the reason I bring it up is, well, maybe there's, I don't know, I've been thinking about, sending a record. I signed up to this website, Film 32, and I said, oh, there's a record. I always wanted to do the pyramid stuff. Oh, let's do a record. And you said you work with a lot of talent, so maybe you could, plug it, or you find people who would be interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to, on my end of where I am, and where you are, you need somebody in your area to be doing that. But, I'll be straightforward and say, a learning disability doesn't define you, or a disability doesn't define you. There are still needs of agencies or people, clients that want real people that maybe even have an actual learning disability, whatever that is. So there are agencies that need talent. So it doesn't really matter who and what we are, large, small, our color, diversity, everything. Life has changed. It's not all the supermodels and the pretty. There's a lot of that, but when there's clients like medical fields or, whatever it is, I've worked with a wheelchair client and I had to have wheelchair people. So, they still hire talent. And it's just finding the right fit for you. And that's it. Some agencies might have interest and some don't. We call it, everyone has a different venue of their talent. But
Well, if you can always help me out, I appreciate it.
Sure. I'll keep an open mind.
Now, what talent, you mentioned you worked with Miley Cyrus. How did that come about?
Well, it was local here. So she lived in Thompson Station, and it was, by the agency. I kind of knew Billy Ray from some fundraising and things that I did. We were neighbors. Our sons became best friends for like a year. And so Miley got involved in the acting, and we gave her acting classes. And that's like you start simple, the basic acting classes. And she did real well. And she was an eager girl. But she was very involved in gymnastics. Miley was a huge gymnastics person. And that was here in town, but as it evolved, and then we would book her as print and a few things. And but as a girl, you grow up, and that may not have been her interest at that moment, because gymnastics were, and tumbling, and I think she actually competed in it. So, but then as things evolved, and she got a little bit older, and she wanted to pursue it, and it just kind of went from that. So when you're working with a talent, you actually are planting that seed and watering it of whatever it is that they're wanting. Because at the time that, I started working with her, she was just a young girl, and we were just developing her. So, how that turned out just was, a pretty good success story for her, but I was her first agent. And there always that very first agent is somebody that has to be patient, somebody that has to, really care and direct them for somebody to achieve their goals. So again, that puts me, like I said, I'm a good behind the scenes person.
Yeah, I agree. See, it's hard finding good people to work with.
Mm-hmm. It is, or else people with positive outlooks or good attitudes and things, and they're people that really desire it and want to be a model or an actress, or and a lot of people want to be a model, and that's great, but there might be 5'5", and they want to be a fashion model. It doesn't work that way. You have to, most of the clients that desire it, you have to be 5'9" to 5'11", ideally, and you just can't become tall. So sometimes our heart wants what our heart wants, and our package doesn't allow it.
That's true. Now, like I said, I do have a couple ideas for you after the show.
Okay.
Now, for people who want to work with you, what talent services do you offer?
Well, I'm a full-service agency, so I do children, women, and men. I did represent pageant girls for several years. I've kind of backed off of that, but I had 5 states that I represented. Any title winners I would represent. And representing is one thing, but in getting them work is it can be challenging sometimes, because their schedules and what comes open. So that's where it's a lot of patience. But so yeah, most of right now, if I open up of signing new talent, it's just local people and actors, and we call them mature people, but women and men. So anywhere from 28, probably 30 to 65. That's a great age for people. A great age for people that want to get in it. But it's a business, so even though it's artsy and you can express your creativity, you still have to have good photos. You have to have a little bit of training under your belt to go compete. So it's not like you can just say, "Hey, I want to be a supermodel," or "I want to be an actress," or whatever. So.
No, I would give you a perfect example. Use me for a perfect example. It's like, when I first started my talk show a year and a half ago, I got a lot of criticisms from people. Oh, you're manipulating people, you're conning people. I went to college for this and then I have a BA and a master's, so why should you do something where I went to school for? Well, what's your opinion about that? Do you agree with it, or if you're passionate about something, you should go and do it?
Well, Keith, I'll be real honest with you. That's a judgment, and and it's their own personal perception. And look at you, you've been doing it for a year, and you have, I don't even know what, over 100 videos or something up, and you do it from your heart. And that's the thing is, one is not better than the other. And when somebody says that, that's their lack of their own self-worth to me. And that's why I say I struggle with it. And that's where my spiritual practices come in, is that, I really, in my eyes, and I can only see through my eyes, is a judgment to another is probably one of our biggest sins, because we don't know who they are and we're not in them. Again, and I refer, it's like different lenses and different cameras, and one camera over here gets this view and this perception, this camera gets this one, so none of us really even know. And so I would disagree with those people, and that limits themselves with that belief. You can do anything you want to do.
That's true. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you're into the whole spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And so am I, and my sister's into that too. What got you influenced in that, and how did that come about?
Well, that's a really good question. And I say spiritual because when I grew up, actually ever since I was a little girl, I've always known religion or God or, Jesus or whatever, but my family wasn't that way. So that might sound a little weird, but I was always connected. I was the girl that heard, would hear things and no one else heard it, and, thought I was a little different. But I just kind of evolved, and then when we mature, we go our own, like you said, the college age, we party or we do whatever. And then as I was, just in a phase of my life, I kind of came back to a church, and I got very involved in church. But I grew up with a little bit more, I would say, Pentecostal, because of my grandmother, and which is a very open church and God's gifts and whatever that may be. And so that felt very freeing to me. But as I started evolving and checking out churches, it was fine. The community, that was still, again, I felt a lot like school because the community could be that way, like high school. Even though there were Christians sitting there in the church, there was still judgments, or, oh goodness, look what she's wearing, bless her heart. I mean, that just doesn't, resonate with me. But, the passion of Source, God did. So I kind of went through a lot of soul searching, and I was that church lady, I would say, for a big part of my life, and then until I started seeing, when they were delivering the word, what is truth and what isn't, what's ego. Because sometimes, a pastor, they can get up there and they're talking and all this, and it's more about them and their ego than about what is love, truth, and all that. So, anyways, I kind of separated from that and did my own searching, which was the best gift I could have gave myself, the very best. Meditation was the key that unlocked so many new paths and passions for me, and balanced my health, and it started changing my life, just from meditating, once in the morning to 3 times a day. And I first started, I couldn't, my mind was so busy. It's like, to quiet it was such a challenge. I would sit there and go, get out. But, it was just breathing, and it was a slow process, like a training. You have to train yourself for a marathon, and that's kind of, I was training myself for a spiritual path. And so now I meditate often, 3 times a day. I love quiet time. I can just sit and, for an hour and nothing be in my mind. It's very refreshing for me. And yeah, so I've just kind of evolved that way. Now, I'm in the Bible Belt, so I live in the Bible Belt, and there's church on every corner. We have more churches than any, state, as it is. So that's a challenge, is because people say, what church do you go to? So I go to the Church of Karol, God, the real stuff. I mean, I commune with him one-on-one, and that's where I feel safe. And that's, because somebody can, again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. In high school, somebody can tell you something, the teacher, the pastor, whatever, but you got to go experience it. I'm that person. I got to experience it. I got to know, is that true? So when a pastor's telling me, oh, and God and Jesus this, I was like, really? Like a loving God would judge somebody for their, being gay or their color or that? It didn't make sense. So as I got out and discovered, we've got an awesome source. Awesome, universe, God, Gaia, whatever you want to call it. But that's my spiritual part of who I am.
Well, 2 things. Well, I'm like you. Like I said, we're on the same page. But even though I'm Jewish, I don't label myself as being Jewish. I believe in God and the devil. Yin and yang can have one without the other. But I think people just like hearing themselves talk. But as Bill Maher says, organized religion is the size of mental illness. And I remember there's a joke what George Collins said. And the joke was, if you do one of these 10 things God is against, and you do it, he's going to send you into a fiery pit where you got to scream and torture and agony for the end of time. But he loves you, though.
Yeah, see, that's a duality. How does that even make sense? That's just like you have this abusive father that, comes home and yells at you and beats you and then turns around and goes, oh, but I love you. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, that's not a healthy relationship, and God's about healthy. But that, to me, I mean, Keith, what you said, it just like, it ignites a passion in me. That's the control of the humanity. The men, the churches, they want to control us and let us know, oh, you can be good, but if you're doing this, you're going to go to hell. Or if you have a sexual preference or something, like being gay, that's a big thing. If being gay is like, oh, no, God didn't approve of that, so we're going to hold you accountable. Who are we to judge? Who? We have bits and pieces of the Bible. We have bits and pieces of the nuggets, and that's not true. Show me where it is. Show me where it's written. And is that writing? Has it been manipulated? I mean, even the Vatican's changing with the new popes, and there's been a lot of wrongdoings in that, and they're trying to change it. But that's where people like you and me, that we get to choose. We get to go within ourselves, and we get to meditate. We get to hear God. And we get to know in our heart, what does that feel like? Like in our heart, does it feel like we're judging something? And if we are, is that because our parents did, and it's a belief we took on? Or is it that's how our heart is? I mean, I'm a big believer. If there's something that agitates you or triggers you, go within and find out what's going on with you. I mean, it's not the other person. They're being a mirror, and they're showing us what we need to heal. And I don't mean to be preaching.
No, it's fine. You can say whatever you want.
I feel like I'm on the preaching of peace and love. But when we say you have I get that there's dualities, and when there's joy, there's pain, or where there's this and that, we experience it, and and we might have the beliefs of the good and the bad, and there's that. I truly don't even focus on the negative. I focus only as I can on the good, because when we focus on the negative, that's what, like, it's interesting how our minds work. We're sitting here going, oh, well, it's a great day. It's a great day. And then something might happen. Somebody might say something that really just, like, pisses you off. And then you're sitting here and you're focusing on it. And that, like, is just this big black cloud. And it takes over the great day, and your great day's gone. It's amazing how the negative will be magnified. And yet we don't even know how to magnify the good.
You're perfect example. Yeah, every time I have a good day, there's always someone, and I said it's uncensored. You can curse if you want to, but there's always someone. You have a perfect day, nothing can go wrong, and all of a sudden, something fucks it up for you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, come on.
Like, yeah, I mean, you're so right, because it was yesterday. Great day. Woke up, did my yoga. I was, meditated, and just really in this great space, going out, start my car, and all of a sudden I hear this squealing. I'm like, what? My car. And I immediately take it to the car shop, and they're like, oh my gosh, your, disc that holds your belt, and it's going to go, and it's this much money. And I'm thinking, shit, I'm like, here was a great day, and now it's turned this. But then I had to really, in that moment where my mind was going to make it big, I said, you know what? That's okay, because I heard what they said, and the mechanic said, it's really good you brought this in, Carol, because had you been driving it, that would have busted, and it would have hit your radiator, done more damage. So I thought, okay, if there was a saving grace, and if God's saying, okay, you're only going to spend $300, it might irritate you, but $300 because this is something it's going to have to be done. or if you don't hear me and heed to that, you're going to be spending $3,000. So I had to look and go, okay, I get it. There was a grace in that. It's just changing it, but yeah.
Well, I don't know if you ever got the chance to look at my website. I recently did it over. Mm-hmm. But yeah, last night I was so pissed. I came across this cute girl. And I'm into the whole goth thing. I like gothic girls. Don't ask me why, but when I was in high school, there was something about it that just stood out because I guess it was different.
Yeah.
And she just persisted on tearing my website. I was saying, either it's unprofessional, it's really not good. So, and she said, part of it, it's your right, you have a right to your opinion. Part of it pissed me off, and whenever I blew her off, said, that's it, I want nothing to do with you. And she says, do I have to spell it out for you? And as soon as she said that, I was like, bye.
Oh, she was living up to her name and trying to... But, that's where people take on a persona, and it's really sad that she's going to turn her heart that way. Because as we mature, Keith, we have to live with us. No one else has to. They don't. And things come in. We're the ones that wake up every day and deal with us and what's inside of us. And, a lot of people feel like there's a terrorist inside them, but if there is, address it and heal that so that you can have a good life. That's kind of part of the awakening and enlightenment, and that's the teachings of, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, whatever it is. It's all about, look within and heal. So if somebody has a name, Bad Alice, and she has to live up to it, gosh, I sure hope she outgrows that, because, that's not good. Well, I got some questions for you.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, I don't know how much time we have.
No, I have as much as you want.
Okay, so we'll do a little question game. I'll put my big girl glasses on. All right, so I'm going to ask you an either or, and you get to select. So, Android or Apple?
Apple, of course. I grew up on Apple.
Ah, puppies or kittens?
That's a good one. I love both, but if I had to choose, I guess kittens.
Yeah? Yeah, I would be the same with me, because I like little puppies, the puppy breath, the puppy paws. But kittens, they're just so, crazy to watch. They're entertaining, doing the crazy stuff. Okay, cash or debit?
Debit. Actually, no. Well, it's cash or debit, right? So I usually do credit, so I probably go with cash.
Yeah. Well, cash, debit card or credit, but yeah, I used to do that, and I've kind of switched to cash as best as possible. Because
if you use debit, there's someone who, I don't know if you think about this, but there's just, I never saw it, but I heard of it, but there's a device where if you use a debit card, their device will pick up your numbers, or if they're in the parking lot and you're using debit, it takes the number, so it's always safer to use credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really, and it's so funny because, well, here in the South we have this, there's so many. We had the Target situation, and you know what, they only took $1 out here and there, which people don't notice. I probably would just budget the dollar and not think anything about it, but $1 with a whole bunch, that's millions of money. But then even Chick-fil-A here local, they just had a breach in anyone that used their debit card. So, yeah, cash is always the clean green.
If I may, if you don't mind. When we, there's a store in FYE, and thank God they're going out of business, but at the same time, it's got to leave an open space in the mall.
Yeah.
When you used to sign up, they ask you, when you use a credit card, would you like to sign up? Oh, hey, Carol, would you like to sign up to this free magazine? And then it's free, and it's blah, blah, blah. And you say no, but they sign you up anyway.
Yeah.
And they use your credit card information, and they charge you money. That happened to me, happened to my brothers. And it's kind of like, I didn't sign up to this. Oh, well, you were in this store on blah, blah, blah date. And it's kind of like, how do you guys get away with that shit?
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. That's just the ways of people trying to get more from other people, and it's harmful, it's hurtful. and it's just like nickel and diming, or how can we take from other people, and that's going to be on one of my lists. Is like, okay, I'm just going summer or winter.
Summer. I can't stand the winter.
Yeah, me too. I like summer a lot. I mean, I like fall, but the winter, it's probably 50 outside, but it's winter here, and I have a little space heater behind me, just keep me warm. Walk or run?
Probably walk. I'm not a runner.
Yeah, I'm not either. I used to be, but I like to walk a lot. Laughter or serious? Don't laugh.
Laughter.
Laughter. Yeah, laughter's always good. I can be serious too, but laughter's always good. Okay, blue or purple?
Well, if you think about it, it's the same color if you add and mix it, but
blue or orange? Let's change the color.
You say what was it?
I said blue or purple, but we could say blue or orange.
Well, I go with blue.
Okay.
For both of them.
Sweet or sour?
Sweet.
Okay, Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel? Which Jimmy?
I heard of both of them, but I never actually had a chance to watch either of them.
Well, Jimmy Fallon is New York based, but I'm probably a Jimmy Fallon fan. Okay, fruit or veggies?
Probably veggie.
Good for you. Paper or plastic? Grocery store, paper or plastic?
Yeah, I always mess with my dad because I always wanted paper bags, but we end up taking the plastic ones.
Oh. Yeah, I use the plastic sometimes for, kitty litter. I don't, because I'll use my reusable ones actually. But when I, need, I'll just get some for the kitty litter. But then I'll sometimes want paper. I try not to do plastic, but hey, you got to clean out the litter box. So, right. Give or receive?
Would it make you a bad person if you said both?
No, it doesn't. There's no judgment here. It doesn't really matter. It's you. I like to do both. I like to receive, but I'm probably a better giver. I like to cook. I always give to my kids. It gives me, by giving, I actually receive. If that makes sense.
No, it does.
All right. I just have a few other questions for you. I'm turning the tables on your interviewing. Okay. Oh, I did write a message. Messy or clean? That's my last either or.
Probably clean.
Clean. Yeah, clean. All right. What's your favorite? We just have a few of these. Color.
I have a lot, but I would say ocean blue.
Oh, nice. What color eyes do you have?
Brown.
Okay. I have brown eyes too. My favorite color is purple. What's your favorite food?
That's a good one. I would take the fifth. There's too many to choose from. What about yourself?
Well, I eat healthy a lot. I would say my favorite food is a really good pizza. I don't do that a lot. Okay, what's your favorite drink? It could be non-alcohol or alcohol. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I don't drink. I would say if I had to drink it every day for the rest of my life, probably Gatorade.
Gatorade? Wow. I'll go with water, especially if I had to drink it every day.
Well, what type of water do you?
Well, I really like the Smart Water, but I just have a Brita, and I'll use that a lot. But and before when I drank water, I could taste the metals in it,
right.
And it was really hard for me. So I can't drink some basic waters or Walmart water things. I could still taste the particles in there. So Smart Water is the best for me.
I heard of it and never tried it. Usually my dad gets me the that's the one I saw in ShopRite. Never tried it. It looks good though. It
is. For water, it's pretty darn good. Yeah.
What about Aquafina here? Aquafina fan?
Yeah, I can do that. When I'm driving and are traveling, and then you got to go into a market. That would be the one I would grab. like a convenience store or gas station, I would totally grab that one. Because most places don't have smart water. Sometimes they do, and it just depends on the money. Like it's silly that they'll charge $5 for $4.99 for a glass water versus $1.99. All right, I said favorite season, but I think you answered that with summer, right?
Right.
All right, your favorite place to visit?
On the beach.
Oh, nice. And my last question for you, your favorite piece of clothing?
It depends on the material. But, probably shirt and pants. You can't go anywhere without your shirt and pants.
Yeah. I have two. I have like this, red flannel plaid shirt that is one of my favorite because it's very soft and cozy. But I have a little black dress that has the New York skyline in sequins. So that's probably my little glam favorite piece. Well, thanks for playing.
Well, I have one more question wrapping up. Yeah. You mentioned about your spiritual. Do you believe John Edwards, not the guy who had an affair, but John Edwards, the guy from Crossing Over, do you think he's the real deal, or do you think he's just guessing?
You know what? I'm not. I don't specifically know of John Edwards, but I know there are a lot of people in this time. Oh, John Edwards is the one that had the near-death experience. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, from Crossing Over.
Yeah, Crossing Over. Okay, well, that's just like the little boy is heaven for real. I do believe there are a lot of people that have their experiences, and I've had several myself, not per se in near death in that way, but you can't explain them. You can't you can't put actually even words to what the experience is, and that's part of even meditation, part of the spiritual path. So that's his experience, and that's the way that God is communicating to him to get his heart changed in whatever it is. So yes, I would believe it because that's his, and I can't see it any different way, because I've had some experiences, and I have experiences all the time that people don't even understand. They're like, Carol, you're just like, God's very active in my life. So I do believe near-death experiences are wake-up calls. I think it's, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, tapping on our shoulder and go, you know what? I want to have a minute of your time. I want to show you something. And if I can't get your attention through everyday life because your mind is busy and I'm going, hello, and you're not hearing me, and you sit there and you go, oh, God, please make my life better. And then they're going, oh, okay, I can help you. And you ignore it, So sometimes they have to shake one's life up. And a near-death experience would be a real shake-up, wake-up call.
That's true. Now, when you say you're spiritual, do you not to get personal with you, but do you see loved ones, or do you know when loved ones are around? You mean that type of spiritual, or just religion spiritual?
Well, all of it, actually. I grew up kind of seeing people, and other people didn't see them. And to this day, I can see, not a full apparition, but I can see energies. I hear very clearly source or information, and they call it channeled information or whatever it is. There's insights I can give to people, and you call it prophetic because it goes back to, the times in the Bible. They were back there. We have Julian of Norwich. We have a lot of nuns that, clearly heard, that call it clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient. You can put it that way, or you could say it's God's gifts. So it depends on, are you reading a New Age book or a Bible? It's all of God. So I think there are people, and I myself would include that are sensitives, that are intuitive and sensitive. And, it's something that I know growing up, it was very challenging for me. And you would kind of battle it because you say something to people and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you think, wow, I'm not right. And so we kind of shut down, and then you get to a point in life and God's going, yeah, you are right. You're everything I made, so, but yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's the reason I bring it up. Is recently I heard my name being called, and there's no one around. Or when I see my loved ones, my grandparents unfortunately passed away, but I remember the scent of their apartment. So, and usually when they visit, there's a strong scent of an apartment smell. And I usually see them in my dreams, but there's one time where I saw my grandfather coming up the stairs. It might have, by the way, if I did, they're passed away, but I was coming out of the bathroom, and I heard the stairs creak. And I said, okay, who's that? Who's coming up the stairs? I didn't hear anyone. And I went, and I swear to God, he saw from the head to his torso. I saw a white collar shirt to his brown pants, and the rest of it was kind of blurred. But he was walking up the stairs, and I went to get my mother, and I went back, and he was gone.
You know, Keith, that's truth, and that resonates with me because I can smell like that. Sometimes we call them smelling spirits. And, so, you know, there's times like I'm not a smoker, like I'm sitting in my house, all of a sudden I start smelling cigarette smoke, you know, or if I'm with somebody and I smell cigarette smoke, and they're not smokers and the whole environment's clean, and that's a spirit. One of mine that it kind of opened up my smelling senses was the roses. Like I could smell the strong scent of roses, and it was so overwhelming, and then boom, it's gone. It's just like a passing, moment, and that's Mother Mary. You know, it's Mother Mary's scent, and that's written in the Bible. But something and that's the thing is, like, I like to take these spiritual experiences, and there's Bible passages, and I have a sweet friend that gives me the information when I can't find it. But when he said hearing my name, it goes back to, was it 1 Samuel or 2 Samuel, where, the shepherd kept hearing his name being called. It's like, or the boy's like, what? And no one's there, and that's God calling us. So yeah, it's written. We can hear. So that doesn't surprise me a bit.
There's one more funny story, and wrapping up. And do you have any funny stories you'd like to share with your fans and listeners?
Oh gosh, I probably got far too many. Probably. Will you share yours first?
Well, I've come up with a bunch of different ones, but we're talking about John Edwards.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I don't know if they talked to him beforehand, but he says, I see a family in this corner. It's not over here to your left, your right, or behind me. It's straight ahead. I see a family, and there was an accident. And if I'm in the dark, I apologize. I'm dealing with the sun fading in, fading out. But that's not what he said.
That's what you said, right?
And he said, I see there's a family right in front of me, and there's an incident. And the incident was where two people were playing with a gun, and the gun went off, and the person died, and the police were involved, and they were covered it up as an accident. Well, this person's with me right now, and he wants me to tell you it was no accident. And the next thing I knew, all 5 people right behind us, or sitting right behind us, got up and ran out of the building. And I was like, well, I guess he hit a nerve, or they're not coming back.
Yeah, and there are people that actually can go into that detail. Like, I can tap into a certain part, but those are called mediums. And, there's different levels of energy. And to stay in that's kind of like a lower level energy. And I like to prefer more to hear the higher angels and God, stuff like that. But yeah, that's interesting because I can see things like that. I had a friend that we were doing, at her house and doing some stuff, and I try not to let people. We're going to talk spiritual stories, so I'll share a little one. I try not to say anything because some people that know me, they know that I'm intuitive or sensitive, and other people, I have friends that are clueless because I just don't put it out there because I've been judged before. But anyways. And this friend does. I'm sitting there and I'm going, so you have a grandma that passed? And she's just like, yeah, I have 2 of them. I was like, okay. And I don't remember. I said one, I can't remember the name, but I go, this grandmother kept showing me this doll, this rag doll, and she wouldn't get it out of my face because I'm sitting there having a conversation. and it's like you're talking with somebody, and then there's this thing in between, and she's like showing me this huge rag doll, and she's like sitting there shaking it, and it was so annoying. It's like, oh my God, go away, woman, you know what? And I finally said, okay, did you have a rag doll, or just this? She's like, you've got to be kidding me. I said, no, she won't go away, and this rag doll, Raggedy Ann's like in my face, but it's a huge one. And she said, yes, at her house I had this life-size Raggedy Ann doll, and she goes, she goes, I didn't know which grandma you were talking about, but now I know. And then the grandma was, so it was just finally went away, and I was like, oh my God, I can move on. But it's funny because spirits are that way. When they want to communicate and say, hey, I'm around, they will be in somebody's, like, they get in my face. So that's the only funny, really, I guess, on the spur of the moment. But I have a lot of other funny things that are not spiritual, so.
No, there's a couple of times where I would be just sitting here using my computer, and the next thing I know, my last interview I did, the lampshade got knocked off by itself, and I was like, what the hell was that? Or I was working on something, and my picture randomly falls off the wall.
Yeah, it's getting your attention. That's like there was a group of us women were gathering, we were just sitting there talking, and, the woman's husband had passed, and she was grieving. I mean, it's been a while, but she was grieving, so we're all just sitting there talking about it, and all of a sudden the light bulb just goes off, and she's just looking at me, and I'm going, yeah, he's trying to get your attention. So people do that. I mean, spirits, and you think about it, we don't know with our limited eyesight, what's around us, and if there was these 3D or whatever, glasses we could put on, I think it would probably shock people of the spiritual world and all they've heard from other people going, wow, they're not loony.
Well, we are made of energy.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we are. I had fun. Thank you.
That's one more funny story if you have the time.
Oh, sure.
My dad, we went to the West on our last visit to John Edwards before he stopped touring. I kind of hope he continues touring. I'd like to see him again. He says, I see a loved one passed away, and I see a guy, or sorry, he said something like, I see someone going through his grandfather's belongings. And I noticed in the corner of my eye, my dad was starting to sink down in his chair. And I said, I now see he reaches for a vibrator. And my dad's like, and I said, it's not over here. It's not to the left or right. It's right here where I'm looking right out. My dad's sinking down more and more in his chair. And I was like, well, if you told me the story beforehand, I'd be like, yeah, that's over me here. But my dad said, I'm not going to stand up in front of 10,000 people and do. But it's like, that's my grandfather's sense of humor. He always pulled pranks.
Yeah, that would be like, people wouldn't get the understanding or the funniness of it. But, I think that's just the other side. The grandfather trying to hold him accountable, going, oh, I saw you. Don't think that I did. So, well, I'm glad that you and your dad got to share those, those times together and to, see John Edwards. And that just shows, being open-minded. A lot of people, are very closed-minded about, the religion and spiritual. And I think this new age, it's going to be evolving. And, it's just, ultimately, we all just want to know truth,
That's true. Now, wrapping up, do you have anything you want to say to your fans and listeners?
Yeah, visit www.reflectionagency.com. If you live in the southern area states, feel free to contact me. And I just wish you the best on all your paths.
You are now watching the Keith Andrew Network.